Welcome back, everyone. So we have my PDF up, and remember it is time to create these curve tables. So navigating back to Civil, we're going to be using this Annotate tab again. And if you might have been observant before, right next to Add Labels is Add Tables. So all I need to do is execute this command, and we are going to add a new parcel table looking to add curve labels to this table. So add curve, and I get a pretty massive dialog box. I don't know what yours is going to look like. My guess is it's going to look something a little bit more like this. All these dialog boxes come up way too small. So quite honestly, a really common technique of mine is as soon as a dialog box opens up, especially in Civil 3D, the further we get, is to drag that dialog box way out and look at a column, and if I can't see all the data, I'm going to drag that column out till I see all my data. Civil 3D is really good at bringing up a dialog box in a way that very specifically does not show the information it needs to show to effectively use the dialog box. It's just one of the drawbacks that the user interface has. And if you get in the habit of immediately sizing a dialog box so that you can see everything, you're going to find that these dialog boxes are pretty powerful. Okay, so we can see, let's start at the upper right. We can see that this whole table is going to already get assigned to a particular layer. Civil takes care of the layers. We don't need to touch it. We have the option to, quote, split a table. And what does that mean? If I bring back up the PDF, for instance, on a drawing, if we have only a short area that we can use for a table, we can tell Civil only put, say, maybe 10 or 15 rows in my table, and then create another table next to it and put another 10 or 15 rows. Well, in our drawing, quite honestly, we have all the vertical space we need. So in our dialog box, we are going to uncheck split the table. We definitely want our table to be dynamic, and that means that if we, in our design, change the radius of C79 over here, C79 will automatically update and adjust its data in the table. Of course, there is the option to say once it's created, the table is static and does not update. Doesn't make sense in most cases, but there are times for record keeping that it does. So we're going to add labels to this curve table, and here are all the different styles of labels that exist in our drawing. And we have to choose which type of labels we want to add to our table. And notice, right, they're all curve labels. And remember, when we were creating these, I was really specific saying, hey, let's make sure we use the exact same curve label for all of our curves. And here's why. Because I don't want to pick through 20 or 30 different rows and make sure each and every one is correctly checked or not. All I need to do is check one box. And it's this parcel curve delta over, boy, I hope, length and radius. Of course, now that I'm here, I can't really remember. So, cancel. Let's zoom in and verify. All right, so let's just pick one. And of course, our view's a little bit limited. So if I expand it, I see delta over length and radius. So we did, or I did remember that correctly. So parcel table curve. No, we don't want to split it, and it's delta over length and radius, and I'm going to check this, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So notice I get C and a bunch of question marks. Notice I get them everywhere. So all I'm going to do now is click over in the right, and there's my table. length, radius, delta, chord direction, and now all these curves are labeled, and I don't have C question mark anymore because the label is already defined, it's not undefined, in the table. What's really nice is remember that last outside radius we added, we very specifically selected a different curve style because I don't want that buried in a table. This is part of the overall outside perimeter of my land, and I wanted that radius right where it is. And that's the value of knowing exactly what type of labels we've selected. Okay, so here we go. I'm ready to close this session. I am going to double click, actually I guess I'm going to drag this just a little bit. And notice if I select a table, I have a grip and I can just drag it. I'm going to kind of drag it so that it's sort of lined up with my parcel there. A little bit of organization. Double click out so that I'm in paper space. And quite frankly, then I'm going to come down to my architectural E tab and say I want to use my page setup manager. I'm going to edit my architectural E style, and I want a grayscale plot style, and I want to display it, right? This is civil. I don't want to see colors on this drawing, right? I'm going to print it out black and white, so that's what I want to see. And it adds a lot of clarity for me. And by the way, I can see that some of these outside labels are dark black and everything else is gray. So quite frankly, to be very clear, I may want to either change these to a little bit more gray, or maybe I want my parcel lines to be a darker black, and I can make those adjustments when I want. And actually, as I look at this from a distance, I can see that I kind of have some cleanup to do here. I'll do that off camera, and you should clean yours up as well. Okay, so here's the exciting part of this conclusion. This finishes our drafting. We now have a completed 2D subdivision design. Okay, so we now need to move on and do some 3D design, which, by the way, of course, is why it's called Civil 3D. And this is the fun engineering part. So within just a couple weeks, we've actually kind of learned and understand how to draw using our basic AutoCAD commands and our basic trim commands. We've learned that layer management is going to be handled by Civil 3D, except in our first kind of section. And so it's important for us to create a few layers that we start with. And we have learned that in parcels, we can create parcels from objects. We can create alignments from objects. Let's see, what else can we do? We can create intersections, and inside of this command, we can choose existing alignments to create an intersection. In corridor, we could create a corridor from existing objects. Let's see, in grading, yeah, we have to use some tools, and they're kind of a hassle. But we're going to get through it, and quite frankly, the result is simply amazing. And this feature line is something we're not really going to use, but there is an opportunity here if we want to use some individually unique feature lines to represent in 2D other things that exist in 3D. Okay, so I'm going to close this section out, and then we will talk through a few 3D objects next week and begin to work on our land. Hope this has been helpful, and really look forward to moving forward with this.